This is Ted Williams, the greatest hitter who ever lived. He hit 521 career home runs, despite missing 3 years of his prime due to military service. But he's most well known for his remarkable .406 batting average, a measure of hits over at-bats. And for centuries, the world determined whether or not a player was effective based largely on that single stat, the batting average. That all changed with the Oakland A's in 2002. A team with just a .261 batting average and nearly the lowest payroll in baseball won 103 games, at one point 20 in a row. So how did they do it? Analytics, looking at stats differently. The book Moneyball chronicled the journey of A's general manager Billy Beane, where he took performance evaluation from one of gut instinct to one of qualitative rigor and intense quantitative rigor. It changed the way players were evaluated throughout the league. And it changed my life too. When I was a young boy, I fantasized about being general manager of the Boston Red Sox. I love the game of baseball, the roar of the crowd, the crack of the bat. But even more so, I love the stats. Hits, walks, runs, RBIs, numbers drove the game. So I took a course on statistics in college, studied clutch hitting, and submitted my report to all 30 Major League Baseball teams ready to become the next Billy Beane. I got 30 rejections. But my first love was always public service. Being from Massachusetts, I had seen how public servants were able to change people's lives for the better, my own father included. And then I got lucky. In 2013, State Representative Martin J. Walsh was elected as the first new mayor of Boston in 20 years. When we met, he told me that he wanted Boston to be the first true 21st century American city and be deeply data-driven. In essence, he asked me to help him create the first new Moneyball administration. He asked me if I was game, and I said, absolutely. The city of Boston is a $2.8 billion organization. If it were in the private sector, it would be deeply data-driven and a Fortune 1000 company. But we've all heard it before. Public sector can't be like the private sector. It's slow, it's bureaucratic, it's inefficient. And most people only think about interacting with their government twice a year, through paying taxes, or if we're lucky, through voting. But what if I told you it didn't have to be that way? What if I told you that our perceptions of government, both for those who work in government and those externally, are actively preventing us from being a better society? And that's costing all of us. Just how much? Research has shown that not using data better in the public sector is costing us up to $3 trillion annually. Yet an unlikely source, baseball, has provided us with the path to do it. First, the stats. Stats weren't really used in baseball until the 19th century when Henry Chadwick did it. And widespread use of those stats didn't really occur until the Baseball Encyclopedia was published in the 1950s. In the same way, the push to use data in the public sector really wasn't happening until recently. So in Boston, we set out to prove the model. First, the mayor laid out his qualitative vision. Nothing special, most mayors lay out their visions. But then the mayor demanded something revolutionary. He asked every cabinet chief to take those qualitative vision and to set key metrics to that vision. Trust me, in the public sector, that is revolutionary. And we saw that really the cabinet chiefs started to buy in. But we realized that in order to really send the message the mayor was taking it seriously, we had to do something to show that every day the mayor was looking at those stats. So we came up with 4 data dashboards that we put in the mayor's office that he could see all day long. Here's a look at how it works. On the upper right-hand corner, the news. On the upper On the upper left-hand corner, the news. On the upper right-hand corner, all of the different calls that are coming into the mayor's call center. And on the bottom left-hand and bottom right-hand corner, all kinds of different data that rotate. Everything from the percentage of buses that arrive on time to the number of potholes filled the day before. In this case, you can see that we even track every neighborhood the mayor visits in the past 30 days and geomaps it fed directly from the mayor's calendar, so we can track which neighborhoods he's visiting and how frequently. And on the right side, you can see the number of narcotics-related incidents in the city and compared it from 2014 to 2015. And what we saw was that the culture of City Hall began to change. We were told the story of a Veteran Services Secretary who was so excited to track all the calls coming in from veterans that she was rallying her entire office to beat the score from the day before. But we realized in order to get the best data, we had to engage the public, and we had to engage the public at every level of their engagement, at the low, medium, and high levels of engagement. So what are some examples of that? Well, for the low, a player needs to keep getting hits to stay in the league. And there's a certain kind of hit that a mayor needs to stay in office, and that's trash collection. But did you know that today, you can civically participate just by throwing out your trash? You've probably seen these in your cities, big belly trash cans, they got the solar panels and the blinking lights. But what you don't realize is this is feeding us invaluable real-time data to serve you better. Because while you see this, we actually see this. Real-time fill levels of the trash all around our city. And what about for the medium level of engagement? How do we deal with that? Cities around the country are partnering with private sector organizations to help us learn more about ourselves. And we've partnered with a company called Waze. It has 450,000 users in the Boston area. And you download it on your phone, and it runs in the background, tracks how fast you're going when you're driving, and allows you to do things like report an accident or report a double-parked car. It allows us to do things like know how long it takes to go from point A to point B. And we get real-time output of all the double-parked cars in the city of Boston, though for this, it might not be a surprise to any of you. And what about the highest level of engagement? People who really want to get involved. Cities around the country are turning to 311 apps. You download it on your phone, and you can report everything from a burnt-out streetlight to a piece of graffiti. And in the city of Boston, we like to do it a little differently. For example, if you report a pothole, not only do you then get a picture of the filled pothole, but you also get a photo of the team that filled that pothole. It's our way of making things a little bit more personal in the city. So that's how we've gotten the data, the quality data. But let's go back to baseball for a second. The data is meaningless unless the manager knows how to use it on the field. He or she takes that data and then decides things, like whether or not to put on an outfield shift or to pinch hit for a player. So how do we do that with the data that we have? Back to the trash example. Having this trash fill rates load in real time allow us to optimize our trash pickup routes so that gone are the days of the traditional up one street, down the other trash pickup routes, and now we have it based on demand. And having real-time fill levels that are historic allow us to optimize trash pickup, especially around big events, so you avoid the dreaded overflowing trash cans on big parade days or anything like that. And what about Waze? We did all kinds of experiments with Waze. Our data team sat with our traffic engineers, who sat with our traffic enforcement officers to do all kinds of incredible experiments. For example, our traffic control officers in our traffic management center have all kinds of cameras on every key intersection in the city of Boston. And they use that information to figure out how to synchronize the lights. So we took Waze and we built a Waze data dashboard into that whole camera array. So that instead of just using primarily the camera data, we're now also using Waze data. And allows them to synchronize the lights more effectively and allows a better commute for you. And what about those dreaded double-parked cars? We took all of the data that Waze was reporting us, and we studied it hard. And we looked, where are the areas where there are most congestion? Where are the areas where there are most double-parked cars? And then we targeted them, and at rush hour, we sent out our traffic enforcement officers all around the city, encouraging these guys to move, allowing for better traffic flow, and allowing for you guys to be just a little bit saner. But don't worry, the ones that didn't move, we still towed them too. And then what about 311? Having digital submissions of constituent issues allow us to do things like geolocate where all the reports are, so that we're more efficiently distributing city services. It's because of initiatives like this that we were able to repair 52% more sidewalks in 2014 than the previous year. And we've seen immense adoption of our caseload that's digital now, almost 39%. And so that's how we're taking all that data, and that's how we're applying it. But how do we use baseball to go to the next level? How do we use baseball to better serve constituents and really change the game? Let's go back to how baseball evolution started. As I said, started with just looking at a player and saying, that guy looks good. Then went to simple one variable over another equations like hits over at-bats. Then it evolved to things like times on base percentage, which is times on base over plate appearance. So walks, hits, hit by pitch, all kinds of things over plate appearances. But now it's leapfrog. Now it's evolved to things like wins above replacement, which is base running runs plus base running runs plus batting runs plus fielding runs plus additional adjustment plus league adjustment plus replacement runs over runs per win. A mouthful, a lot of variables, but it rolls up to one single stat that's easy to understand. How many more wins is that player bringing in than a replacement player at that position? So we thought about that progression, and we thought about how we could apply it to the public sector. Back to the mayor's call center dashboard. Here we see a number of helpful variables: total calls, abandoned calls, average speed answered. But we also see something called service level percentage. Now, batting average, as you remember, is one variable over another, hits over at-bats. This became our batting average, the number of calls answered within 30 seconds over total calls. And what we see when we look up there is that instead of having no reference points, the mayor and the call center manager looks up and sees when the score dips, and then calls up to the call center and says, why is that? Do we need to put more resources up to the call center? Do we need to make all those kinds of changes? And that allowed for quicker reaction time and allow us to stop problems before they start. So that's service level percentage, and that's batting average. But how do we get to the wins above replacement? How do we take all the metrics that we've put together now and allow it to be rolled up to a score that the mayor can react to quickly and stop problems before they're happening, not just in the call center, but across the city? And think about what would happen if we were to come up with something that fulfilled that. And we made that publicly available, and cities around the world started to use data this way. Think about the city's service improvements. Think about the lives it could save. Well, we did think about it. We thought about long and hard, and we think we have a potential solution. And we're calling it City Score. It's a way of taking all the amazing work that cities are doing and allowing us to know what's going on in real time. Here's a look at how it works. Variables that exist in every single city you can imagine. Veterans that are being housed, arts grants dollars, Wi-Fi availability, all rolling up into a single score. And much like wins above replacement, very simple to understand. Anything above 1 means that we're exceeding our targets overall, and anything below 1 meaning that we need improvement. And here's how it could look at a department head level. Yes, all the key stats that the mayor asked the department heads to put together early on, and then also City Score on the upper right-hand corner, where someone can quickly look up and say, we're exceeding or we're not. And here's how it could look for the mayor. One simple score that any given time he can look up and see how we're doing, but then also the top 5 metrics where we're exceeding and the bottom 5 metrics that we need improvement. And we plan to make this publicly available so that cities around the world can take City Score and use it how they want to. Because the mayor's priorities here may be very different from a mayor's priorities in California or somewhere in another country. And the weighting of those different factors will be up to those mayors. Now, we think we shouldn't just stop at something like City Score. There are so many ways we can take, for example, baseball has so many different complex statistics. We should be taking complex algorithms and applying them to everything. You can imagine a scenario where we're designing algorithms that target opioid use and predicts where the next one might happen and stop it before it does. You can imagine a scenario in which we're using data and we're using algorithms to target Craigslist landowners who are advertising their unit at overcapacity, stopping them from doing that and potentially saving lives. The list really does go on and on. Now, like how you can never truly evaluate a player based solely on metrics, we believe deeply that nothing will ever replace the shaking of a hand, the appearance at a community event, or the general feel of a neighborhood. But like a baseball team that uses data to help inform whether to draft a player, we believe that technology has evolved to give the public sector the tools to serve constituents better, and that it's our responsibility to do that every single day. But we need your help. So throw out your trash in a Big Belly trash can. Download the Waze app. Report that piece of graffiti you see using 311. Be a part of the new world that helps government help people through technology. And you'll be making society better, one hit at a time. Thank you.